Today I have some content that I get really excited about, or more excited about the more I did research into it. Because I think before this point, like the secondary and then the defensive line questions on the defense of Alabama have overshadowed this group, at least to some. And even me a little as I was going through and looking at all these other areas, and I was like, wait, this linebacker group, this could be good. And so that is what I'm going to talk about today. The Alabama linebackers. This is a preview for the linebackers for the 2017 season. And my tag for this one is they are a very deep group, and we'll get into why. But as usual, I'm going to talk about the players that Alabama lost first, which of course is Reuben Foster, who was the Mike linebacker last year, middle linebacker, first round draft pick of the San Francisco 49ers. He's been impressing them. I think he was named a starter this week or last week, whenever it was, for the 49ers. So Reuben Foster lost a really good guy there. Also, we lost Ryan Anderson in the second round of the draft as well. Played outside linebacker. I think he played Sam or Jack. I don't remember the exact moment, but they kind of flipped around a bit. I think he usually was more on Jack's side, I believe, for Alabama. But he rushed really well, played the run and pass very well, very underrated. A lot of people gave a lot of attention to Tim Williams and Jonathan Allen, but Ryan Anderson made a lot of plays for Alabama. So lost him in the second round to the Washington Redskins, and he's picking it up over there pretty well. Then also Tim Williams, who I just mentioned. Tim Williams was a third round draft pick of the Baltimore Ravens, was like our pass rush specialist at Alabama, tried to become more of a complete player last year. And I think he did a good bit of doing that. And now he is with the Baltimore Ravens and got his first sack in the preseason game. It was against the Dolphins. I think that's what they played. I don't keep as much with the preseason. And then also we lost a guy who didn't get to play as much. I believe he was a redshirt freshman. He would have been a redshirt freshman this year or a redshirt sophomore. Can't remember it. But Sean Jennings, who was the brother of Anthony Jennings, who was still with the team. But he transferred out probably due to the numbers and depth that was starting to build up and the amount of players and talented guys who are in the wings. And I guess he felt the writing was on the wall and he decided to transfer to get a better opportunity to play. So all in all, we lost 4 linebackers from last year. 1 middle linebacker, 3 outside linebackers. And honestly, that's not a problem, and I'm going to tell you why. So first, let's get into who's returning. Of course, we got Shyheimon Hamilton, who started alongside Reuben Foster last year. Shyheimon Hamilton is kind of a stocky guy. He's 6 feet, 235 pounds. He's smart, he's explosive, and he's strong. I think, oh man, he can bench press a lot, but I think he can squat quite a bit too. I think he can squat over 500 or something like that. They did a story on him a while ago. Comes from a military family. He's a really good kid, a smart kid, and just very strong. He has a low center of gravity, and he can read and react very well. There's just plenty of plays where you saw him diagnose the play, and he went after the ball when he realized where it was going, or when his guy got the ball. He played the running back side of the backfield well. He played the outlet receivers. All those different things. He did it really well. And honestly, as I said in the previous video, he is probably our best coverage linebacker, and a lot of people don't realize that because he doesn't get a lot of attention. But he will be the starting linebacker in the dime package. And to be the linebacker in the dime package, you have to be able to cover. And that's why I believe he's there instead of Rashad Evans. But that doesn't mean Rashad Evans can't cover. And speaking of, that is also a returning guy. Rashad Evans, who is 6'3", 235 pounds, first came into Alabama, I think, in that 2013 recruiting class. And really, we kind of used him more as a pass rush third down guy, kind of like a Tim Williams. Put him on the field because he's fast. And he was kind of long and not as big, but he kind of developed more and more. And he moved from the inside linebacker last year to improve some depth there and get more talent in there. And he took to it well. And he actually came in toward the end of the season last year, stepped in when Sean Dion went down with a knee injury. And he played inside linebacker along with Reuben Foster and really did a great job there. And he can go sideline to sideline. And he plays faster than his recorded 40 time. I believe his 40 time before this past year was a 4.6 or something like that. I think this year in the spring he ran like a 4.75. But he actually plays a lot faster than that. I think because, adding on the extra weight, obviously more mass would slow you down a little bit. But it's not like Like, whoa, he lost a lot of speed. I think you'll see what I mean when you see him play. Like, he moves as if he's still as small as he was. So it's really interesting to see these guys. So those two for sure are the starting inside linebackers, but also returning. You have Keith Holcomb, who had 10 tackles in the spring game this year. 10 tackles and 2 sacks. He's a very underrated guy. I believe he's a redshirt junior or maybe even a senior, but I think he's a redshirt junior. He's been with the program for a while. I believe he was a three-star prospect coming out. I believe so, three-star prospect. But he doesn't get a lot of recognition because he's not one of those the overly talented guys. So you say, "Oh man, this guy's a guaranteed first-round pick." He's not one of those guys, but he's smart. He knows what to do. He's a sure tackler. Keith Holcomb. Also, Mack Wilson is returning, who was a freshman last year and was able to get some playing time, even though he was one of the two five-star linebackers that we had. And he actually, so this is all the things that Mack Wilson did last year. He was a reserve linebacker. He even did a little bit of backup punting to J.K. Scott. And he played fullback and caught a touchdown as a fullback in one of the games early in the season. Mack Wilson is a talented guy. He's 6'2", about 236 pounds. Get this. He runs a 4.59 40. Big guy. Talented guy. It shows. He just has like great athleticism. And he's been pushing a lot for playing time this year. We'll get into that because it's going to be second string, I believe. And then also returning for the inside linebackers. These are all inside linebackers, by the way. Joshua McMillan. McMillan is about 6'3" as well, about 230 pounds. We're starting to recruit like a very similar body build or type guys, or at least same height, kind of shorter but more explosive type linebackers. And that's only for these inside guys, actually. And not really that short, but short relative to the days of Rolando McClain and Dante Hightower, who were like 6'4", big, huge guys. But yeah, Joshua McMillan, who hasn't played a lot, but he's been with the program about 2 or 3 years, and he's been a reserve as well. So those are returning for the inside. Now, returning for the outside linebackers. As I said before, we have Anthony Jennings, who is number 33. He will be returning. He's 6'3", 262 pounds. Like a typical jack linebacker, kind of stout and heavy, ready for the run. So he's returning. Then you have Jamie Mosley, who's a long, kind of athletic, rangy guy. He's 6'5", 248 pounds. So they've been working on putting some weight on him, but he's also been with the program about 3 years. I think he's a redshirt sophomore this year. But he's been dealing with concussion protocol, so he hasn't been able to practice that much in fall camp. But he will definitely factor into the rotation this year at the outside linebacker. Also, Mickey Brown, who played a bit last year. He was a sophomore, 6'5", 241 pounds. They put some weight on him, too, because he came in a bit small. So that's good to see. Also, Christian Miller, who him and Jennings are leading the outside linebacker drills for Sam and Jack. I believe Jennings is probably more Jack and Miller's more Sam. Depends on how they flip around. You never know at this point. We won't know until the game plays. And even then, we don't know how much 3-4 Alabama's actually going to play. But Christian Miller is one of those starting guys for the outside linebacker spot. He's 6'4", 200. So you're starting to see that these outside linebacker, like pass rushers, Sam, Jack guys, all these guys are like pretty tall and big and rangy. So we're starting to recruit more guys like that. 6'4", 240 pounds. I think he ran like 4.69 40 or something like that. But he played a good bit last year after sitting on the bench for a couple of years, trying to learn behind guys like Ryan Anderson, Tim Williams, and the whole crew that's just been wrecking havoc for 2 or 3 years. So he's now ready to set to explode, and Nick Saban's high on him. They're ready to see him produce. Terrell Hall, or that was his name formerly, he is now Terrell Lewis. He is 6'5", 254 pounds. A lot of you may remember him, Alabama fans, from the 8A game when he took Tua Tagovailoa's pass. Tagovailoa tried to do a little swing route, but Terrell was so long and rangy, athletic, he held the tackle out, and he just reached into the air, grabbed the ball, and returned it for an interception and a touchdown. This guy, I think the staff, and I think they said they are really expecting him to kind of show off his skills this year. He's going to be a pass rushing force. He won't play like Tim Williams per se, like in terms of like being the same type of player or like the same scheme or tendencies, but I think he'll occupy that Tim Williams, like, oh, we have a very athletic pass rusher type role. He'll do that, I believe. That's my prediction for Terrell Lewis this year. And then finally, of course, Ben Davis returns, who was one of those five-star linebackers from last year, along with Mack Wilson. Um, Alabama legacy. His dad played linebacker at Alabama, Wayne Davis. He struggled to kind of get acclimated. They had actually moved him, yeah, like I said, to outside linebacker, and they projected him to be inside linebacker. A lot of recruiting services did, but Alabama's kind of moving around, seeing where they can get him to develop and get him on the field. But he's 6'4", 237 pounds, so he's a big guy, talented guy. But those are all the returning linebackers now, and that's a lot of numbers already. So this is why I'm showing you why I'm excited about this group. But we also have new guys coming in. Of course, five-star prospects. So there's three five-star prospects in the last 2 years. Dylan Moses. A lot of you remember him because he had his little battles with Najee Harris during the recruiting cycle, and everyone's going crazy for this guy. He's played all over the place. Everybody wanted him. He chose Alabama, of course. And the staff that says he can do it all. They're just like moving him around. Inside linebacker, outside linebacker, pass rush, coverage. They're putting him where he needs to be. He's actually been working with the inside linebackers, battling a bit with Mack Wilson. So that's going to be interesting to see when the season starts. Then also we brought in Markel Benton. We brought in Christopher Allen and Vandarius Cohen, who a lot of people are really high on for his athleticism and talent. But he has had some he's ran into, I guess, conduct issues when he was in high school, and a lot of people are not sure what to think about that. They don't know if he'll be able to transition well to college. Who knows? I think if you come to Alabama, you have a good chance to get, I guess, like discipline issues corrected. Because Nick Saban is a disciplinarian. It's funny because people think Nick Saban's soft on players and all that, and whether you agree with punishments and all those things, that's another story. But in terms of like setting the players up to actually understand their position, like I said, in life and learning how to, make better decisions. He provides a ton of resources and teaching for helping them to be better men. Now, whether they take it, that's another thing. But he does provide an opportunity and a structure in an institution for them to be able to do so. Which is, some have argued, have said that that's why some Alabama players don't do as well when they get to the NFL. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with all that. With that whole narrative of Alabama players not doing well in the NFL, that's a whole nother thing. But some have argued that one of the reasons why some of the Alabama players don't do well in the NFL is because they don't have that Nick Saban Alabama structure to keep them, following a good path or going in the right direction. And so I'm like, that's reasonable. I can see why people argue that, but neither here or there. Those are the new guys we have coming in, and they're gonna have a hard time getting on the field, except Dylan Moses. But anyway, let's get into some more of this, I guess, analysis of these guys and what I think about them. I can't do them all because the video will be too long, so I'll just do some of what I think is going to happen. Like I said, Shyheimon Hamilton, smart, instinctive, explosive, low center of gravity. You can't really get a hand on him. And because of that, actually, because he's a little bit smaller, if he isn't correctly leveraged and doesn't anticipate the play as well, sometimes he can get washed out of running plays if the offensive lineman gets a hands on him and moves him. But that rarely happens because he's always anticipating and reading the play well and getting to where he needs to be. I believe, honestly, that Shyheimon Hamilton has the potential to be a better overall Mike linebacker than Reuben Foster. Not necessarily from a talent perspective, because it's hard to emulate Reuben Foster. He's tall, fast, he can move around and fly. But in terms of like being an overall guy, reading, directing plays, and being where he needs to be, I think he has a chance to be better than Reuben Foster was. And then along with that, then you have Rashad Evans on the side of him. And if you allow Shyheimon Hamilton to be the one to like control, all the calls and putting people in the right place and anticipating the right things, Rashad Evans is now more free to just fly around and go sideline to sideline and even move down to some of that pass rushing sometimes, or to just, put him in a position to cover some guys because of his athleticism. I believe they complement each other well. Shyheimon Hamilton and Rashad Evans, I believe they have a complementary play style that will be very good for this team from the linebacker perspective. Also, with Keith Holcomb backing up Shyheimon Hamilton, That's a lot of good experience behind Shyheimon Hamilton. So if he does go down, I believe Keith Holton will be able to come in and provide those Mike responsibilities. Um, you don't produce like Keith Holton did in the spring without knowing this defense well and knowing what you're supposed to do and what others are supposed to do. So he's there. Now, here's the interesting thing about who's going to back up Rashad Evans. So that would leave Evans as the wheel linebacker in kind of like 3-4 defense or in the 2 linebacker sets. So his backup will either be, at this point, from what we've seen, is Mack Wilson or possibly Dylan Moses. Dylan Moses has been moving up the rep chart in practice, and he's been impressing. So Mack Wilson and Dylan Moses are kind of fighting a little bit. Some have even said that Dylan Moses is actually pushing ahead of Mack Wilson, and that Mack Wilson is kind of losing a little steam to him. So that is really interesting. Um, I'm interested to see who actually pulls out here and gets the most time, and how would that affect Mack Wilson if Dylan Moses moves ahead of him on the depth chart. Who knows? Speaking of Dylan Moses, though, just to let you know, this guy ran a 4.4640. The reason why I'm pausing is because that time is actually faster than a good bit of our wide receivers. I don't think you realize how fast that is. He runs a 4.440. A mid 4.440. I'm excited just to see him run on the field if he gets a chance. Like, if we can see him in this game, in the Florida State game, I'm just excited to see him run, see how fast he can go. 4.4640. But I can definitely see why Alabama's giving him some chances to get on the field because he has a lot of talent. He has the opportunity to make an impact. So obviously, but those are the inside linebackers for sure. Then Joshua McMillan will probably back up either spot depending on if it's needed. He's a reserve role. He shouldn't have to come in as much, but we do have guys there. Now, outside linebackers. As I said before, the 2 leading nose drills are Anthony Jennings, who is number 33, and Christian Miller, who I believe is number 47. These guys, they're going to be stout against the run for sure, as usual, but they have the ability to pass rush. I think Anthony Jennings is more of the power guy, hold up on the line of scrimmage, stuff the run, and then use his power to rush. Christian Miller can probably use a little bit more finesse. I think he will use more finesse than Anthony Jennings will. So they kind of complement each other in their rush styles, similar to Ryan Anderson and Tim Williams. Now, with that being said, with these 2 out there, because we haven't seen them as much, so I can only talk a little bit about these guys. Based on the spring game, they look talented, of course. But then behind these 2 would be Jamie Mosley and Terrell Lewis, who I believe both of these guys provide a very similar type rush. So behind Jennings and Miller, who are a bit more stronger, probably more stout against the run, and with Miller a little bit of a contrast, Mosley and Terrell Lewis, I think, or at least in my opinion, are more similar in their skill set in terms of being long, rangy, and athletic, and probably can both get after the quarterback. So it'll be really interesting to see if both of them can be on the field at the same time rushing the quarterback. But that would be if we were running 3-4, or if Mosley or Terrell Lewis just replace a defensive lineman. Usually it will be Deshaun Hand, Deron Payne, or who's the other guy? It will be Raekwon Davis. Or maybe they'll take, Raekwon Davis out and then put Terrell Lewis in and then have Jamie Mosley on the other side. That would be an interesting setup. It'll be interesting to see if Alabama does something like that because we did do a bit of that in previous years. We've had Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, Jonathan Allen, and Deron Payne on the field at the same time. That's not uncommon to have 2 linebackers, 2 defensive linemen as the rushers. But with all the bodies that Alabama has and the different type of players they can put in, it'll be interesting to see who they decide to put in where. They could have Terrell Lewis and Anthony Jennings on the field at the same time. They could have Christian Miller and Jamie Mosley on the field time, and any combination of those. And then the reserves for the outside linebackers. Like I said, this is a lot of bodies. Mickey Brown, who played a bit last year, so he has some playing time, and then redshirt freshman Ben Davis, who's a very talented guy. Both of those guys, we don't know as much about what they can do because they haven't played as much, and Ben Davis not at all. But they are there. And then, of course, the freshmen who are probably in line for a red shirt, Markel Benton, Christopher Allen, and Vandarius Coleman. But if they're needed, they can be called upon. So this linebacker group, overall, I believe this linebacker group, the inside linebackers have potential to be a better group than Reuben Foster and Shyheimon Hamilton were last year, which is really interesting. Like I said, they will be better talent-wise or anything like that. I'm saying they have the potential to be even more cohesive, which would be really cool. And then these outside linebackers, they have more length and ranginess and athleticism than the previous year's outside linebacker group. So we bring all that together. This is a very talented outside linebacker and inside linebacker and overall linebacker group for the University of Alabama, and they have a lot of numbers and depth. It'll be interesting to see if maybe they can compete with the secondary for the strength of the team. Now, that's something I hadn't considered until making this video. Fellow Alabama fans, what do you think about that? Who do you think will turn out to be the best linebacker out of this group? Or give me two. Who is the best inside linebacker? Who do you think will turn out to be the best inside linebacker? And who do you think will turn out to be the best outside linebacker out of this group? And what combination of guys would you like to see on the field? I think I'm very interested in hearing what you guys have to say. I'll let dialogue with you on that. I mean, Florida State fans, I don't know how much you know about our linebackers or about some of these guys and how much they've played. But who concerns you the most, or who do you think would make the most impact out of the Alabama linebackers on this game, or who do you think has the potential to? That's really interesting. Either way, thank you for watching this video. It went longer than I thought, but I had fun making it. So uh, let me know what you all think. I've actually been working on some analysis of the Florida State and Michigan game. Um, I hope you're excited for that. So for those who watched all the way through to the end, that's my little gift to you, letting you know what is coming up next. Maybe tomorrow is the first quarter of the analysis of the Florida State Michigan game from the Orange Bowl, and I have a lot of information just from like the first 5 minutes. This is crazy, but I'll make this a little test. If you stayed this long and you know what I just said here at the end, leave it in the comments so other people can know, those who may not want to finish this long video or who can't do it at the moment, that analysis is coming. So thank you all. See you tomorrow.